Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan Late. I'm the Director for Planning and Development Services. I'm also the hearing officer for these projects. I'll start by just calling this meeting to order and asking Vicky, do we have anybody speak on any item that's not on the agenda?
No. Just checking my- No, there are no hands raised.
Okay.
For general public.
Okay, so everybody that's here is to either observe or speak to the item that's on the agenda then. And before I call this item up, I just want to make a couple of announcements. It's a little bit awkward, our process. The director makes a decision on applications such as these individual review applications, but I haven't actually been involved in this project at all. And the way that we set this up is so that I can have these hearings and be independent and look at the facts as they're presented and as included in the administrative record. Claire is Raybould is the manager for our current planning program. She's been involved in this project, and she with staff, or in this case, Bhavani, one of our consultants, has prepared the determination. I have read the packet, which is available online. I have looked at the site more recently on Google Maps, but I have previously also been to the site many years ago when there was maybe the application was being filed in the first place, and there was concerns about a tree on the property. But since then, I haven't had any involvement on this project or case. Okay, so when we start this item, we'll hear a brief presentation from Bhavani, a consultant for the city, summarizing the project, and then we will open it up to the there's persons requesting hearings. There's two neighbors that are requesting hearing. We'll hear from them, and then we'll hear from the applicant, and then we'll have a chance for rebuttal from the folks requesting the hearing. And then we will open it up for public comment. We do have a hard stop in this room at 4:30 because the city council is going to meet this evening. I will not be making a decision at this meeting. I have up to 14 days to make a decision based on the information that's communicated here in the room. I won't be doing any additional research. So with that, I think I've covered the basics. Just to note, if you do want to speak, it looks kind of informal because we're all gathered around here, but this is, it's not an opportunity to just, speak when you want. If you do want to speak, please submit a form to Vicky, and she'll call you, and we'll determine how much time we have to speak for folks. It may be as low as 1 minute. It may be as much as 2 minutes. I got to just see where we are when we get there. Okay, so with that, we'll call to order 530 Barron Avenue, a request for a director's review of a tentative approval for an individual review application. Bhavani, you want to give us a brief presentation?
Yeah. 530 Barron Avenue, it is a proposed two-story residence with approximately 2,530 square feet single-family home with an attached garage, and it has a 303 square foot proposed JADU and a 497 square feet detached ADU. The detached ADU is part of the existing building. The remaining around 924 square feet of the existing residence is proposed to be deconstructed. The appellants from 3730 La Selva Drive and 538 Barron Avenue, they have been in contact with the staff since the application was first submitted. They've raised their concerns along with many of the other neighbors that they do not want the cluster of 5 trees to be removed. The staff found that the applicant has sufficiently addressed the requirements of tree removal under Palo Alto Municipal Code Section 8.10.050, And as of today, the October 15th, we received 2 emails from neighbors in support of the projects. Though we have not received any other additional comment after the staff report has been published. And I'm happy to help with any other questions about the project.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. And that, just noting that aligns with what I've also read in the report. So with that, who is the first party that is requested a hearing?
The first party that requested the hearing was Carrie.
Actually, Carrie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Your
um,
email came in first.
Together, or is that okay?
yeah, you guys can speak together. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Or up
I'll go
to-
first.
up to
I tried to keep, I wrote it down so I could be really succinct.
Yep.
So my name's Carrie Jung. I'm at 538 Barron Avenue, so adjacent neighbor. And thank you for allowing me to speak. I'd like to address first that in a lot of the paperwork, the tree is referred to as a single tree, and I know from a botanical standpoint, that's correct. Since the trunks share a root system, but it's not really the reality above ground, because above ground we have 5 mature redwood trunks, and they each are functioning as individual trees. So removing the grove would have the equal ecological impact of removing 5 mature redwoods, which would mean 5 trees worth of canopy cover, wildlife habitat, carbon storage, and it impacts the neighborhood character a lot more. The Palo Alto City Code allows protected tree removal only if there's no financially feasible alternative design to preserve the trees. But the plans submitted include section G, which is a clear alternative that preserves the larger group of trees and has minimal square footage loss. So there's about 256 square feet lost in that one. Which seems like a small adjustment with significant environmental benefit. And so I'm kind of confused why that option's not being pursued. And it feels like the city continues to conflate the 5 trunk redwood with the single tree. I just don't feel like the justification for removal explains why section G isn't financially feasible. So we would totally support removing the single trunk. We would prefer, of course, not to lose any, but it wouldn't be realistic with the lot the way it is to keep both trees. And any reasonable variances, we completely support too, just as long as the 5 trunk grove is protected. And we don't feel like this is about aesthetics or personal preference for the trees. It really has to do with that's an irreplaceable grove. You don't see those fairy circles very often. The root systems are very, very old because they had the original root system from the parent tree. And it's going to be a very strong group of trees that are going to survive a lot better. And we just feel like the ecological value and community value, and that the city's codes all support keeping that growth. And
And I'm Chris, Carrie's husband. I'm also living at 538 Barron. And I just wanted to call out that the redwood trees, this ring of redwood trees is over a century old. And they really bring a lot to the neighborhood in terms of just the whole feel. I'm not going to get too much into the aesthetics because I know that that's not what this is about. But Palo Alto literally means big trees, and so and you know it's really kind of I feel like it goes against the city's ethos to extract these precious resources from the community, and I think I read in the report that these are not diseased trees at all. They're actually very healthy. And we actually share the canopy on our house as well. And so I know that there might be some concerns about foundation issues because of the root systems, but there are techniques to build a foundation that will create a safe structural home that will not require the removal of these trees. Yeah, I just want to urge the city to consider and pursue a version of a plan that will, like Carrie said, I think it was G, right?
Mhm.
That actually, or some kind of a variant that will preserve the trees.
Yeah, and our house is 100 years old
Mhm.
and we've had no foundation issues from the trees. so.
Right, yeah. And we're within the canopy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the next requester.
I guess that would be me.
Okay.
My name's Vicky Young.
Okay.
I live at 3730 La Selva Drive, which is across the street from 538 Barron. The property, I see it every day right out of the kitchen window. I did take a picture from our property. I don't know if we're allowed to enter it in,
Sure.
only because I have a few copies, only because it shows more clearly how many trunks and how large they are, because the photos in the application really only go to the, let's say first 10 feet or so. You can't really see how large it is and how massive the trunks are. So I took the picture just to give you a better idea of how large the tree is. And my concern at this point is that Palo Alto, the code section in the regarding tree removal as part of the municipal code, as well as on the frequently asked questions public page of the urban forestry website, has certain statements as to these are the conditions under which a protected tree can be removed. I think there is no question that this is a protected tree. I suppose one could argue it's almost 5 protected trees versus 1, but regardless, no one's disputing that this grove falls as a protected tree. So just reading from the website, if a protected status tree must be removed from residential property as part of a development, approval of the development serves as approval for tree removal. But notifications will apply. And then the site says, these are the allowable reasons for removal in this situation. 1, the tree is dead, hazardous, or is a nuisance. That's not an issue. The tree is a detriment or crowding an adjacent protected tree. That's not an issue. The tree is at risk for retrenchment or other tree decline coping processes. This was a new addition from a couple years ago, and apparently is talking about trees that are basically at risk of dying, and so that was added. That's not an issue. The tree is so close to the proposed development that construction would result in the death of the tree, and there is no financially feasible design alternative that would permit preservation of the tree. And this is, the code specifically defines financially feasible means an alternative that preserves the tree unless retaining the tree would increase project cost by more than twice the reproduction cost of the tree or 10% of the given project valuation, whichever is greater. These are the reasons that are contained in the standards and the process set forth in the municipal code. There was a review of the application in May where the Urban Forestry Department noted that certain conditions hadn't been met and wished more input. They did come out with the final, this tentative approval. And I believe, because I pointed out, there hasn't been in my mind, a proper finding that there is no financially feasible design alternative that comports with the definition that is in the code. What staff, in my opinion, have put in their decision is that they concede that while there are alternatives that do protect the tree, they said the alternative would be an awkward design. It reduces living area of the house and eliminates a second parking space.
Okay.
There is no
Thank you.
exception
Thank you.
to that in
Appreciate your comments.
Sorry.
All right, cool. So that's our buzzer. Okay, and now we have, thank you for your comments, Vicky, I appreciate that. And now we go to the applicant, represented by whom? Thomas Sullivan?
That's me.
Okay, go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
Sorry, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Up to 5 minutes.
My name's Tom Sullivan. My wife is Kat. My sons are James and Kai. I'd like to build a house on my property for my family. Our current house, built in 1925, is small and falling apart. I'd like our kids to have a place where they can have their own rooms, have friends over, and be more comfortable. We have a precious few years with them before they go off to college, so it's important for us to finish this as quickly as possible. That's why we want to build a house, not because we have anything against trees. We've explored every which way to build a house on our property without cutting down the 2 trees. Unfortunately, the trees are obviously in a difficult locations. For the kind of house we want to build, it would actually be best for us to cut down both trees. I think we have a fair argument to take down both. But in an attempt to save the tree at the edge of the property, we've looked for ways to make accommodations. We've had to give up 2-car garage that we like. We'd have to make the layout skinnier than we like, among other trade-offs. The Palo Alto laws are designed to keep as many large trees as possible while still balancing the rights of property owners to build houses. Trees can only be cut down for specific reasons, and when a tree needs to be cut down to build a house, a set of replacement trees will be planted as mitigation. Because of the location of the trees, we started by looking at potential designs that violate setback rules. We didn't see any good possibilities, but when the neighbors expressed how passionate they were about one of those trees, we doubled down. We spent a couple months and a couple $1,000s working with our architect to examine designs that built into the setbacks. One idea is to build the house into the rear setback of the lot. As we talked about in the application, we would have to build up to about 8.5 feet from the trunk. It would set us up for high risk of damage to our house in the future due to roots. The house would be well covered by branches requiring extreme trimming to avoid overhanging branches. It would not have a backyard. This would be quite close to the back property line. And the square footage we could achieve would be smaller than our proposed design. In addition, we're going to start over with our layout, which would take many months. We'd have to restart the application process, which would take a long time. And our application for variances could be objected to and possibly rejected, which would add more risk, uncertainty, costs, and delays. The second variance idea that Carrie mentioned would involve building at least 10 feet into the front setback. We'd have the same timeline issues. Also would not achieve the square footage we want. There would not be room for a required second parking space. The layout would be awkward. And for all that, we would save 1 tree, but we'd have to cut down the second. So applying for setback variances doesn't make sense for us. It doesn't meet our design needs, and it doesn't our design goals or family needs. If any of the neighbors would care to learn more details about what trade-offs we have to make, I'd be happy to talk to them about it. If any neighbors have better ideas, we're all ears. For design ideas that meet the setback, to meet the city setback requirements, the code speaks of financially feasible design alternatives, which preserve the tree. A design alternative to our proposed plan would be a house that is substantially similar and would meet the needs of our family to the same degree. Unfortunately, no design alternatives exist. Our architect studied the idea and made a best effort to create a plan that preserved both trees while keeping out of the setbacks. The result is something that is obviously not workable. The design study falls far short of the square footage of our proposed plan by over 500 square feet. This is not good for our family, not good for the resale value. This reason alone is unacceptable. The area that is available would make for a very awkward layout. For this study, the building walls come within 10 feet of the trunks. Being so close to the house would be at high risk of future structural damage from the roots, regardless of the foundation type. This is something that is mentioned in the arborist report. For all this, there still isn't enough room for the second parking space the city requires. The new building would cover about 22% of the tree protection zone. If you include new walkways and driveways, it goes to 29.5% of the tree protection zone. If you include existing structures, they would all add up to cover nearly half of the tree protection zone. This obviously would not be good for the tree health. And these days it's common for home insurance companies to require that no branches overhang the insured house.
And I believe many of these comments are also reflected in the packet that we have.
Yeah.
And so I've had a chance to look at those as well. So even if you didn't have a chance to complete your remarks, I've had a chance to read those. Okay, let's go to public comment. And so seeing that we have a half hour left, and I may have a few questions that I want to ask as well. I'd like to try to keep the public comments to about 1 minute. Yep. And I think we have 7 speakers.
Yes, we have 7 speakers. No raised hands on Zoom.
Yeah.
The first person we have is Bob Poole.
That's me.
One.
So great. You have 1 minute to speak. And if
Thank
you
you
can,
very much. Yeah.
and
my
if you
name
can
is
speak,
Bob Poole. I
yeah,
live-
students, sir, if you can just speak as loudly as you can, because we are recording this, and I
Sure.
think this is the microphone over here.
Sure.
But
Again, my name is Bob Poole. I've lived in Barron Park for 47 years. I moved into Barron Park in 1978 by purchasing the house that is at 520 Barron Avenue, next door to the 530 address. On moving into that house in 1978, there was a tree growing in the den room of the house, 6 to 8 inches in diameter, up through the floor and out through the roof. Pretty quirky even for the 70s, but it let me know that that community valued trees enough that someone was willing to build their house around the tree rather than remove the tree. From my dining room window and my kitchen window at 520, I could view the redwood grove, and I consider those trees my neighbor. I'm very much opposed to taking those trees out. I believe that there are alternatives for construction that would allow the good folks at 530 to have time, and yet take redwood trees.
thank you for your comments.
The next person we have is Susan Borton. Hello, my name is Susan Borton and I live at 3836 La Selva Drive with that gentleman over there, Bob Poole, who moved down the street. And I've lived there with Bob for 25 years. In addition to being a longtime resident of Barron Park and a lifelong resident since 1960 of Palo Alto, I am currently a member of the board of the Palo Alto Stanford Heritage, which is a nonprofit in Palo Alto that is dedicated to preserving the character of the city. And that involves the look and feel of the neighborhoods, the historic quality of the buildings and the homes. And it's been an enlightening 3 years. It's educated me on the value of finding creative compromises to preserving the heritage and the unique quality of life in our city. My husband over there is fond of saying that Silicon Valley has gone from the Valley of the Hearts to life of bits and bytes. I would urge city planners to work with the property owners to consider alternatives. Thanks.
The next person we have is John Hinton.
I am John Hinton. I live in Palo Alto and from 1998 to 2002, I owned this property. I lived there while we were building our house on La Selva. I worked for many years with DiMattei Construction, and part of my job was helping develop spec builds. And as we're getting ready to leave this property to move to the La Selva property, we looked at using this property for a spec build. We developed a plan, which you'll see in your packet, called the Hinton Plan, that built 2,523 square foot building in the back of the lot. When we looked at developing this thing, there were three problems: the trees, the back neighbor, and the side neighbor. They're all too close. Our intent was to push the thing as far back as we could, eliminate those problems, and you end up with an enormous front yard. You could build 2 or 3 ADUs and have 3 or 4 parking spots.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
The next person we have is Jen Wagstaff Hinton.
Fine. I'm Jen, and this is Jane. Jane is standing in the tree grove 20+ years ago. This picture was taken by her auntie. I know from what John said, there are alternatives, and it's a choice. It's a choice that the owner makes. And that was the choice we made when we achieved variance, got a building permit, which expired after 2 years. Mark DiMattei, who's an award-winning developer and builder, said, quote, "Creative design can possibly work around these trees with a section carved out mid-footprint to accommodate the roots." I would, if it were me, I would have celebrated these trees with glass for a treehouse vibe. That's an award-winning developer who advised us on our purchase. So my appeal is to you, Sullivan family. Think about it. You have an alternative choice to make. It's you, it's not the city. So please give it serious consideration. Thank you.
Just another point that I just want to share, in this forum, please speak to me as opposed to applicant, or just so that we can keep it.
I see.
Yeah, no, appreciate your comments though, but that helps
That
us
was you,
keep
for
it.
you.
I heard you. Thank you. Okay, and next.
The next speaker we have is Carla Bliss.
Yes, I've lived on Barron Avenue at 588 for 52 years, walked the neighborhood. And I'm only a few doors away from our new neighbors, and I'd like to invite you to come to my house and see how I have lived with 7 heritage trees on a much smaller lot. Granted, I'm not building a new house, but I have massive oaks. And the roots have not moved my house. They are on, my house is on top of these trees. They were there first. I do love all the big trees in our neighborhood. And I have a partner who's built a house around a tree. It's 3-sided house and it's quite charming. So there are ways to be creative, but it's not kind of the big new practical house that is built as the one next to me. We lost a cathedral like yours when a brand new house went in, and our houses are on top of each other. You know what? We love each other. So
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Claudia. I'm sorry.
I pass.
Claudia?
I pass.
Oh, yes, okay.
Oh, can I give my time to the next speaker?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we don't combine time.
thank
But
you, Claudia.
So we have Star teacher.
Okay.
Teacher.
Let's see, I live around the corner on Witzel, and we actually live in a house that was 625 square feet with 3 sons and a couple big dogs. And it was remodeled in the 1970s. It's around 1,100 square feet. We have an equally massive redwood tree. I have to say that I do agree with some of the speakers that it is it's a value decision to some degree. Our children have loved having trees and this massive tree in our yard. It has provoked so much play, a different way of life, maybe that someone else doesn't share or appreciate, but I want to say that there's an opportunity for children to really love that sort of environment. And this house has enjoyed the benefit of a 1 foot, 6.5 inch setback with the ADU. I don't know that having a second slab, if that could be eliminated, that would take care of some part. Easier to get out of there and as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, appreciate it. Does that conclude?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I may have misspoke earlier about an opportunity for rebuttal, but I want to give each of you just a quick moment to offer an additional comment if you have something to say. So to the applicant and then to the folks who have requested the hearing. So you may begin just if you have any additional brief comments that you want to make.
Just saying that, this wasn't a light decision. We carefully considered the alternatives, going into the setback. And it's easy to say on paper it's possible, but we went with our architect, we went down the road, saying, well, what are all the trade-offs we would make? And there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Somebody's trying to speak online. They didn't get the opportunity to.
Was
Francisco.
it Francisco?
Yeah,
Okay, well.
he wasn't sure how to do
Okay,
it.
sure. Yeah.
He can have my time.
No,
Okay.
it's a public comment.
Okay, so our Francisco is the one, I think. Francisco, okay, so we have.
Where's Chris Spalding? I don't
I
know.
think it's an
Spalding's an
architect.
architect.
Okay.
or-
Okay, so we have Francisco.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Great. Just really brief. I am 2 properties over from this property. Somebody mentioned earlier, the name of our town is Palo Alto. When the European explorers first came, they were not used to these tall trees. They didn't have sequoias in the old world. I totally understand why they call this area Palo Alto. Recently, about 5 years ago, we lost a redwood tree right behind our house, probably 20 yards. 2 years ago, we lost a giant sequoia, not even a redwood tree, it's even bigger, in our front yard. It was removed by the city because of decay. I think maybe if we don't make our best effort to preserve these trees, they continue disappearing. And instead of calling our town Palo Alto, we'll have to call it No Palos, which is no trees. And that is what makes this town different from where we came from in San Jose. And I hope
Great.
we can maintain the character and the living trees and squirrels and animals that live in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay, and the other speaker is your architect, is that correct?
Yes, I thought I saw Chris. Reed.
Okay, so that's part of the applicant team, so we'll hold off. If I have questions for Chris, we can follow up with that. Okay. And then any,
Oh, Vicky, did you?
oh, as I said before, I think that they still haven't met the requirements of the code. I think the reasoning of the forestry as to the exceptions they're applying, that they don't need to satisfy the code, go beyond what is required by the statute to remove the tree. So until we complete the process, in my mind, it's improper to remove the tree because the requirements haven't been met.
I'm sorry, we're past that. Do you have any additional comments,
think-
Buttle?
My comment would just be that I know that the design alternatives might not be the ideal way that they want their house to look, but there are alternatives and they would work well and they'd still give a lot of like large square footage within just a couple hundred square feet difference. So I think that buying a property with multiple heritage trees on it, you need to know that that's then going to possibly impact the design options that you have.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for your comments. Appreciate you coming out and being a part of this, this hearing. I do have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask. First, Bhavani, of you, if you could just reiterate for me and Peter Gollinger, I'll ask you a question too, if you're still online. What percent of the developable area of the site is taken up by the ring of trees? And actually, yeah, the ring of trees, not tree two.
I don't know if Bhavani has the exact number, but I believe it's upwards of 40%. And the allowable is 25% under 1050 or 81050 B2, which is actually the code that's cited for this particular one. Is that the trees take up more than 25% of the buildable area. I believe it's a 48%.
Okay, great. And Peter, is it a two-pronged test where you need to meet the permissible building area standard and also a financially feasible design alternative?
So the code does read that there is no financially feasible design alternative. So that language is the same under B1 or B2. When this code was being written and debated in front of council, the city attorney that's assigned to planning and development elaborated on what a design alternative would be. And a design alternative would be something that fundamentally meets the major goals of the project. And so based on the evidence that we received in the supplemental application, none of the design alternatives that were presented substantially met the goals of the project for the property owner, which is why we determined that there was no feasible design alternative financially or otherwise to determine if it meets the financial aspect of it. So step one is there a feasible design alternative that meets the requirements for the project? And then if it does, then we would go to is it financially feasible?
And has there been any financial feasibility analysis that has been done for this project? I hear that there's been some revised plans that have been considered, but is there any financial feasibility analysis for this project?
To the best of my knowledge, there was no financially feasible information presented as part of the packet.
Okay, thank you. And Bhavani, have you received anything?
No, I haven't.
No. Okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah, we heard you say no.
Yeah, that's correct. We haven't received anything in terms of financial feasibility. I think the analysis was like Peter said, the first step was, is there a feasibility of design? And because that wasn't met, and then it didn't go to the next step of financial feasibility.
Okay. And Peter, maybe back to you. When you get to the financial, I'm reading from the code B2 as you've referenced. When you're determining financial feasibility, there's a standard of twice the reproduction cost of the trees or 10% of the given project valuation. Do you know the reproduction cost of the ring of trees for this site? Do we have that information?
I believe the reproduction cost that was sent in by the project arborist was 96,000.
So twice that would be close to $200,000 of an increased cost to the project. And do we know the project valuation? Bhavani, do you know the project valuation?
Let's try to see if we have something here.
Evidently, we did not submit anything about construction costs.
Okay. Okay. All right. Um. And then, Claire, can you remind me of the individual review findings? There's the guidelines that we have to make for these projects.
Yeah, so
And there's the one about the siding that I'm particularly interested in.
about the siding.
I think about citing the,
Siding, yeah.
Questions?
Sorry. yeah,
Let me send you an email.
The guideline one, basic site planning.
I'm sorry if you can just speak up.
Yeah. Basic site planning, placement of driveway, garage and house. The driveway, garage and house shall be placed and configured to reinforce the neighborhood's existing site patterns, i.e. building footprint configuration and location, setbacks and yard areas, and the garage and driveway shall be subordinate to the house, landscaping and pedestrian entrance as seen from the street.
Okay, well. I'll share where I am now, and, you know, I don't think I have the information to be able to make a decision on the project. I think that the code, and Peter, correct me if you see this differently, but the code does establish some standards for determining financial feasibility. And that is a financial calculation, and there's information needed about the project valuation and needing to understand 10% of the project valuation and how that ties into different design schemes that are related to the project. So I don't feel like I've got the ability to make an informed decision without that information. And so part of the challenge here too is that I'm not responsible for Title VIII of the municipal code. That's managed by our Public Works Department. And so it's not so much a decision for me to make on that particular issue. But what I'd like to do at this moment is continue this hearing because after today, I have 14 days to make a decision. I don't feel like I can make an informed decision without getting more information from the applicant team, having that be reviewed by our city arborist and our Public Works Department before reconvening and having a chance to consider that information in a public forum to be able to make a decision on the project. If I did make a decision on the project, it's just going to get appealed to the city council and they're going to ask the same question. So I don't think we're saving any time by having a decision in the next 14 days from today. So that's where we are. We'll continue this to a date uncertain. And that will give us an opportunity for Claire and Bhavani to work with the applicant to collect this information. We will do another mailed notification as we've done with this one. And we'll reconvene at a noticed meeting to review the information and have another chance to go through this. I apologize because I know it takes a lot of time and energy out of your day to come to these meetings, but I appreciate everyone's time being here. And look forward to seeing you the next time we can get it scheduled. And I would just put in a request to Bhavani and to Claire to move this expeditiously as possible. We have heard that they've been waiting to move this project forward. So I'd like us to reschedule as soon as we can. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.